New footage of Lil Jeff has just been dropped by his parents, and it's got people talking. Unlike any random clip floating around the internet, this is footage from moments before the Bloodhound rapper was killed. And when you see it, you will realize just how wild this situation really is. But that's not even the craziest part. Lil Jeff's parents have come forward, and they've got some jaw-dropping things to say about the footage they just released. If you thought you knew the full story, think again, because what they're revealing is flipping everything on its head. The exclusive footage. So here's what really happened. Lil Jeff's father, Jeffrey Harris, hopped on Facebook and let it be known that his son was not caught lacking. Apparently that was the narrative that had been floating around, and people assumed Jeff was just out, maybe chilling, maybe slipping, and that's when the ops got him. But according to Lil Jeff's dad, that couldn't be further from the truth. Jeff wasn't just sitting around waiting for trouble to find him. He was actually the one bringing the trouble. He was out to get his enemies. He was on the hunt, and things just didn't go his way that night. And Mr. Harris isn't just speaking on it casually. You can hear it in his voice, at least from the way he typed, that it's personal. He was making it clear that this isn't over. He's sending out a direct message, not just to the world, but to the very people responsible for his son's death. He's looking them dead in the eye and letting them know that this is far from settled. Now, you might expect people to react with some kind of sympathy, maybe even some remorse. After all, no matter what happened, Lil Jeff was someone's son, someone's friend, and that's what happened, at least until his father gave warning to the streets and said that his son was caught on an op. As you'd expect, the reaction has been the exact opposite. And if you've spent even 5 minutes on Reddit, you already know how ruthless that place can be. The comment sections are flooded with people saying they have zero sympathy, no pity, no condolences. Reddit users wasted no time clowning Lil Jeff's father after his reaction to his son's death. When he posted a warning for the streets to watch out and claimed the saga continues, many saw it as ridiculous. Some mocked him for treating the situation like a movie, while others criticized his mentality, saying he was part of the reason his son ended up dead. One user outright stated that Lil Jeff was destined to fail from the start because of the type of father he had, while another bluntly called his dad a sociopath. The overall sentiment was that there was no room for sympathy when the father seemed more focused on keeping up a street image than mourning his son. Instead of pity, the post sparked even more mockery and debate, with many arguing that this mindset is exactly why cycles of violence never end. To them, it's just another case of street karma. Live by it, die by it. It's brutal, but that's the reality of how people see this situation. And as harsh as it sounds, it's not uncommon. The internet is a cold place, especially when it comes to stories like this. But just when you thought the conversation couldn't get any colder, things took another dark turn. People started pulling up an old music video of Jeff, and that's when the apathy really set in. In Jeff's words, he said, "Them niggas did what they did and had to pay the consequence." He also apparently heard a dude. The lyrics of the song went like this: "When I speak, it's only facts." He was screaming, "Ah," when he got hit. Real tough up on the net. Now he on the floor looking like a... In an interview he did before his death, the host reminded Lil Jeff that he basically bragged about dropping up to 11 bodies. 11. Now you already know how this goes. Once people hear that, their entire perspective changes. Suddenly it's not just, oh, another young rapper gone too soon. It's, well, what did you expect? And that's what makes this situation different. This isn't just some internet conspiracy, wild speculation, or after the fact gossip. The truth isn't buried in some hidden police report or whispered in the streets. It's coming straight from Jeff himself. He put it in his music. He made it clear. And also makes mention that a man is not a made man until he has 2 bodies under his belt.
Hey, now I heard King Von say in one of his songs, "You not a killer unless you got 2 bodies."
Exactly, now you get it.
Damn, so that's real?
It's real.
People are starting to piece everything together, and the conversation is shifting. It's no longer about mourning anymore. It's about taking a step back and looking at the bigger picture. Because whenever a rapper dies, especially one from the trenches, it always sparks a debate. People start throwing out theories. Was it jealousy? Was it beef? Was it bad luck? But in Jeff's case, there's no real mystery. He wasn't just involved in the streets. He was actively playing a game where the stakes were life, death. And this time it happened that he lost. That's why the reactions have been so mixed. Some people are treating it like just another day in the streets, another casualty in a never-ending cycle. Others are those who don't care at all, so desensitized to the violence that they don't even have an opinion. And then there are others using it as a cautionary tale, a warning to up-and-coming rappers who think this lifestyle is just for show.
If they had some real guidance in their life, like motherfuckers who's really standing on it, I feel like Lil Jeff and Lil Schoon, them little niggas would be, they'd they was something to work with.
But no matter where you stand on it, there's one thing that's impossible to ignore. This new footage and Bloodhound Father's words have completely changed the narrative. Because now, instead of just mourning another fallen rapper, people are starting to dissect the choices that led him here. Was this avoidable? Could things have gone differently? Or was this always how it was going to end? Let us not also ignore the fact that it also raises a much bigger question about the cycle of violence in hip-hop. When does it stop? And maybe more importantly, does anyone actually want it to? Because every time a rapper goes out like this, the reactions follow the same script. Shock, debates, a few RIP posts, and then right back to business as usual. If this is your first time hearing about Lil Jeff, don't worry, I got you. We'll take a step back and break down how he got here in the first place. So as we dig deeper into Jeff's story, it's important to understand not just how he died, but how he lived. Because for better or worse, his life tells a story that a lot of young rappers are still living today. Bloodhound Lil Jeff. Bloodhound Lil Jeff, real name Jeffrey Harris, was one of those names that got big in Chicago's drill scene for all the reasons you'd expect. I mean, there was the talent, street ties, and the kind of lifestyle that makes people pay attention. Now, his story wasn't just about making music alone. It was also about the way his world shaped him and how he reflected it right back through his songs. Jeffrey Lamar Harris, popularly known as Bloodhound Lil Jeff, was born on July 14, 2002 in Chicago, Illinois, to Latasha Lucas and Jeffrey Harris. He started his education at CIC's Longwood and later graduated from Harold Washington Elementary School. Jeff then attended Curie Metropolitan High School, earning his diploma in 2020 before briefly enrolling in online classes at Daly College in 2021, though he eventually dropped out. Lil Jeff grew up on Chicago's South Side and saw what a lot of kids in that area see: the struggles, survival, and a system that didn't care with life outside being more than just hanging out.
Can you start by telling us where you from?
Chicago, Illinois, east side of Chicago. East side of Chicago.
East side.
Yeah.
Can you tell us what it was like for yourself growing up on the east side?
Shit, like anybody else from the rack. The same shit. Literally.
It was about knowing the rules, reading between the lines, and understanding that the streets could either be your stage or your downfall.
My crib got shot up when I was like 14. I was some stupid ass shit.
Lil Jeff wasn't just some kid messing around with beats. He found a voice in drill music because it spoke to what he knew. He looked up to local artists who turned their pain into lyrics, and he wanted to do the same. After leaving school, Jeff turned to the streets and became a member of the 079 Bloodhound Gang, a faction of Drill City. The Bloodhounds have gained a reputation for violence, with the gang being linked to numerous murders and shootings throughout the early 2020s. When he started rapping as Bloodhound Lil Jeff, the name itself told people exactly who he was. Bloodhound wasn't just a nickname, it was his set, his identity, his whole world. Being affiliated with the Bloodhound faction of the Black Disciples meant that music wasn't just about expressing himself, it was also about representing something bigger. Also, his songs weren't just tracks, they were stories, warnings, and sometimes straight up confessions.
Did what they did and had to pay the consequences.
When he dropped in February 2024, people took notice. The raw energy, the way he told his side of things, it all clicked. The song quickly racked up over 100,000 views on YouTube and hit 10,000 streams on Spotify. People weren't just listening, they believed him. And that's the thing, if people believe you, it makes you a star, but you also have to be careful as it also paints a target on your back. Lil Jeff wasn't just rapping about the streets, he was part of them, and that meant his lyrics were more than just entertainment. In one of his videos, he mentioned a double homicide from January 26, 2024. Two guys, Monterio Drench Zaw Williams and Robert Lil Rob Boston, both from Nitty Block. That hit wasn't just some random shooting, it was bold, broad daylight, making headlines and shaking up the city. When Jeff referenced it later in his music, it was like saying, yeah, we did that. That might boost credibility, but it also makes enemies pay attention. One of the closest people in Lil Jeff's life was Bloodhound Q50, another rapper and street figure. They weren't just collaborators, they were brothers in everything that came with their lifestyle. Songs like BH4L and Hardy Boys weren't just about rapping together. They were about their lives, their struggles, and the bond that held them together. When they weren't in the booth, they were in the trenches, and their music made sure people knew it. Of course, talking about that life so openly had its downsides. Both Jeff and Q50 weren't shy about claiming bodies in interviews and social media posts. Q50 said he had a hand in 8 murders, and Jeff took it even further, saying he was at 10 or 11. Whether they were exaggerating or telling the truth, it didn't matter. The streets and the police were both listening. After all, drill rappers have a habit of telling on themselves, and Lil Jeff was no exception. Bragging about hits in music might be great for views, but it also makes you a walking target. That target got too real on June 8th, 2024. It wasn't just another day. Jeff, dressed in all black, was out with two of his guys when they ran into members of Trap City/Zone 7. Whatever history they had, it exploded right there. Surveillance footage caught the whole thing. A heated argument, guns drawn, chaos. When the smoke cleared, Jeff had been hit multiple times. Even though they rushed him to the University of Chicago Medical Center, the damage was done. He was pronounced dead at 5:46 p.m. The autopsy later revealed he had been shot 19 times. 19. His death sent waves through the community, but not in the way you'd expect. While his fans mourned, the internet wasn't exactly full of sympathy. The thing is, when you spend your career talking about catching bodies, people don't always cry for you when yours drops. Reddit especially was flooded with comments, with people saying Jeff wasn't just some innocent victim, he played the game and lost. And then things got worse for his legacy. See, after he died, one of his music videos dropped, and it was a problem. In the song, he somehow claimed to have killed 11 people.
Heard King Von say in one of his songs, "You not a killer unless you got two bodies."
Exactly, now you get it.
Damn, so that's real?
Real.
It was the kind of thing that made people stop feeling bad and start saying, well, what did you expect? The lack of pity turned into straight up mockery in some places. Even though his close friends and fellow artists like Da Tweaker posted emotional tributes, for a lot of people, Jeff's death was just another headline in a city used to losing young men to gun violence. After he was gone, his music didn't just disappear. Tracks like Through the Ceiling and Drax End Switches were released posthumously, keeping his name alive. But even those songs carried the same energy that got him. Killed, gritty, violent, and a reminder of the life he lived. If anything, they were a final stamp on the legacy he built, for better or worse. Lil Jeff's story is a reminder of the complicated reality that may be attached to some artists, especially the underground ones. On one hand, it gives artists a way to tell their truth. On the other, that truth is often the same thing that takes them out. His life and death prove how thin the line is between rapping about violence and becoming a victim of it. At the end of the day, Jeff's music wasn't just music. It was a product of his environment, his choices, and the world he grew up in. Some saw him as a rising star, others as just another statistic. But whether you liked him, hated him, or didn't care, his story forces a conversation about why this cycle keeps happening. Because for every Lil Jeff that falls, there's another kid picking up a mic and stepping into the same world, telling the same stories, and facing the same fate. The rap rivalry. Now, Lil Jeff's death didn't just shock people. What it also did was to cast a light on the dangerously unpredictable world of urban gang rivalries. In this case, it was the Bloodhound Gangsters versus the Trap City Gangsters, two groups locked in a long-standing battle that had already shaped countless lives before Lil Jeff ever got involved. And at the core of this feud wasn't just about some personal beef. It was about identity, survival, and the communities that got caught in the crossfire. To really understand why Bloodhound and Trap City hate each other so much, you gotta go back to the beginning. Both gangs didn't just pop up out of nowhere. They were born out of the same harsh reality. I mean, the same old poverty, lack of opportunity, and the feeling that the system had left them behind. When there aren't many ways to make money legally and stay safe, people find their own ways to build power, respect, and financial stability. That's how both groups formed, though their paths were slightly different. Initially, the sets Chris World, Trap City 400, East MTV 079, and Drill City were all part of an alliance known as Bloodhound 0679. This alliance had been around for over a decade, with discussions about it dating back to at least 2020 on Reddit. However, in 2023, it was reported that their alliance fell apart. According to members of Trap City, the fallout began when someone from Drill City allegedly stole a chain belonging to one of their members. In a discussion about the incident, Trap City members explained that the stolen chain caused tension between the two sets. One member, identified as SJ or another individual, reportedly lost the chain during a high-speed chase with police. This event became the breaking point that fractured the alliance. As a result, other sets began choosing sides, with many siding with Drill City. Feeling betrayed, Trap City distanced itself from the Bloodhound Alliance and turned against its former allies. This was particularly shocking because Trap City and Drill City were once extremely close, so much so that Lil Jeff even shared a screenshot of a text from his mother reminding him that he used to sleep in the same bed as some Trap City members. The tension quickly escalated into violence, with shootings breaking out between the groups, eventually leading to fatalities. Since the Bloodhound had already established dominance in certain areas, Trap City was the new kid on the block, trying to carve out their own piece of the pie. At first, it was just about territory. Bloodhound had its blocks, Trap City had theirs, and whenever one side tried to push into the other's space, things got ugly. But it wasn't just about who controlled which streets, it was about power, money, and respect. And in their world, disrespect had consequences. Before long, the fights weren't just fistfights. Vandalism, robberies, and drive-bys became part of the daily reality for people living in these neighborhoods. Businesses suffered, families lived in fear, clear, and anyone caught in the middle just had to hope they weren't in the wrong place at the wrong time. What made things even worse was that this wasn't just a street-level feud. It became a cultural war. Both gangs had their own slang, their own fashion, even their own music. And that music, especially drill and trap, wasn't just entertainment. It was a battleground. Rappers from both sides used their lyrics to call each other out, brag about what they'd done, and in some cases, make direct threats. If you think music doesn't influence real-life violence, just look at how many rap beefs have ended in actual shootings. Words turn into actions fast when respect is on the line. There were a lot of moments where this rivalry boiled over, but some incidents really stand out. In 2010, a nightclub fight between Bloodhound and Trap City members spilled into the streets, leaving multiple people injured. The media jumped all over it, making sure everyone knew just how serious this feud was getting. Then, in 2015, a well-known Bloodhound member was taken out in what looked like a targeted hit by Trap City. That set off a chain of revenge killings, and suddenly, the streets were a war zone. Police tried to step in, but let's be real. When has law enforcement ever truly stopped a gang war? They just show up after the damage is done. One of the key players in Trap City was Robert Trap City Rob Thompson. Rob wasn't just another member. He was a face of the gang. People either loved him or feared him, sometimes both. He was known for handling business, whether that meant taking care of internal gang issues or making sure Bloodhound knew Trap City wasn't going anywhere. By 2024, there was a shooting incident between members of the two factions, and multiple people were hit. One of them was Marcus Lil Jeff Jefferson, and he later died at the hospital. The cops moved fast, and all eyes turned to Trap City Rob. Surveillance footage placed him at the scene, and with his history, it wasn't hard to put him in the suspect seat. But what happened next caught everyone off guard. Rob's charges were dropped due to lack of evidence and allegations of mutual combat surrounding the incident, leading to the eventual loss of Lil Jeff's life. Basically, there were rumors that the whole incident wasn't just a one-sided attack, and both gangs knew what they were getting into, and everyone involved was a willing participant. Making this rumor further believable was also the fact that Lil Jeff's father had posted online that his son actually came to get the oops before what eventually happened, and not that the ops got to him. Community leaders worried this set a dangerous precedent, basically telling gang members they could keep killing each other as long as they made it look mutual. But some legal experts defended the ruling, arguing that the law is the law, even if it doesn't always sit right. This whole situation just proves how hard it is to charge gang violence in court. After all, these aren't random, isolated crimes. They're part of a bigger system, a cycle that's been running for years. You can't look at these incidents without looking at what causes them in the first place: poverty, lack of opportunity, and communities that feel abandoned. When people don't see a future for themselves outside of gang life, this is what happens. The solution? Well, that's the tricky part. Law enforcement may focus on locking people up, but that's like putting a band-aid on a bullet wound. The second they take one gang member off the streets, another one takes their place. The real answer is fixing the root problems, and such solutions may come in the way of better schools, real job opportunities, community programs that give kids an alternative to gang life. The problem is, those things take time, money, and effort, and they don't make for flashy political sound bites. And if you think the music scene doesn't make things worse, think again. Drill rap has turned gang rivalries into viral content. Back in the day, beef stayed local, but now, a diss track can get millions of views overnight, spreading the conflict to people who aren't even involved. That makes it harder for anyone to back down. If you're publicly called out, you either respond or lose face. And when your whole reputation is built on respect, that's not an option. Social media has only made things messier. Instead of just hearing about beefs through word of mouth, now people can go online and see gang members posting threats, flashing weapons, and celebrating attacks. That's exactly what happened with Lil Jeff. His online persona made him famous, but it also made him a target. It's one thing to be feared on the streets. It's another to have law enforcement and your enemies watching your every move. Despite Trap City Rob being free at the moment, the question remains, what happens next? Bloodhound isn't going to let this slide. In their world, every loss has to be avenged, and Rob's release just added fuel to the fire. People are already whispering that retaliation is coming, and if history tells us anything, they're probably right. The police may be on high alert, but let's be honest, there's only so much they can do. Arrests and crackdowns won't stop the cycle. The only real way to break this loop is to change the conditions that created it in the first place. Until that happens, the Bloodhound Trap City war isn't going anywhere. So, will this feud ever end, or is this just another chapter in a story that never really stops? One thing's for sure, everyone's watching, and the streets are waiting for the next move. Well, if you found this video informative, click on any of the cards on your screen to check out more trending stories about it.